And so I'm approaching my capital raising every day of thinking like, okay, who can I help to achieve their goals? Like, who can I help today? How can I help them?
Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. With me, as always, on these Wednesdays, we got Matt Jones. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Ready to talk about some real estate. How about you, Todd?
I'm doing good too, man. So yeah, we do want to talk about some real estate. Matt, you were just at a conference recently in Louisville, Kentucky, about raising capital, and that's a big part of any business. If you're going to be successful in business, you need to know how to raise capital. Well, at least you may need to know how to raise capital, but especially in the real estate world, you need to know how to get the capital for the deal. A big part of getting the capital for the deal is getting the equity. Likely, if you're going to grow and scale, you're going to need to raise some sort of private capital. You're going to need to partner with people. You're going to need to get some money to get the properties done. So with that said, Matt, you attended this conference. It was 2 or 3 days.
I use 3 days.
3-day conference. I know there was a bunch of speakers there and talking about, probably their journey and how to raise capital and stuff like that, and giving everybody pointers. I'm sure you met a lot of good people. So let's dive in, Matt. Maybe first just give a quick recap of the conference, and then we can dive into some details.
Absolutely. All right. So RaiseFest 2023 was the first RaiseFest. There were over 500 people in attendance. It was run by Hunter Thompson. So he wrote the book, Raising Private Capital for Real Estate. Excellent book. I highly recommend it. But so it's all people who are looking to grow their ability to raise capital. And like you said, it's a kind of a key component in real estate. If you're able to raise capital, you're going to be able to get into some deals. That's the bottom line, essentially.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of, big picture things that were talked about at the conference, as well as like little tips and tricks and skills that you can take away as well. Like one cool thing I want to mention is that I had given it some thought before the conference is this AI, or artificial intelligence, called ChatGPT. Have you heard of that yet, Todd?
Never heard of it. No. ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. So it stands for Generated Pre-trained Transformer. Don't worry about that. But anyway, so it's this artificial intelligence chat bot of sorts. So you can go onto the website and log in, and then you type in your question, asking it to do things. So you can say like, hey, you probably wouldn't say hey, but you could say, write an article about passive real estate investing options, and then it would write an article from sources on the internet, and just kind of give you like a generic kind of thing, a first draft, if you will. You probably don't want to use what exactly it says, because if you ask that and I ask it, it's going to give us the same article. So you just still want to like refine it into your own sort of thing. But if you're looking at content creation, looking at making emails for your email list, or social media posts, or blog posts, or anything like that, a great resource to at least get you started, and then make it your own from there. And I think what we're going to see over the next few years with artificial intelligence involved in real estate, it's going to blow up. You're going to be able to like upload your operating memorandum and rent roll onto these artificial intelligence websites, and say, analyze this deal for me, and it's going to spit out some performance expectations based on rent growth in that specific area, and all sorts of different data that is able to pull from the internet.
Interesting. Yeah, that I could see how some technology could really streamline some of that underwriting, especially if we can look at some current data metrics that are happening, and it can really quickly pull from those data metrics. I think the challenge is how accurate is the internet and the data metrics. So if you're asking, let's just call it, you're asking to underwrite a deal in Louisville, Kentucky, because that's where you were. I can go onto the internet right now and I can say, what is the population of the Louisville, Kentucky MSA? And I will get 10 different populations of the Louisville, Kentucky MSA. Now they're going to be fairly close to each other, but nothing's going to be the exact same. I will get, if I say, hey, what's the population growth of Louisville, Kentucky? I will get again 10 different responses. Now, again, they're going to be probably fairly close to each other, but they're all going to be different. I think that's going to be the challenge is how you have to be extremely detailed, but you also have to fact check whatever the AI is spitting out. So, with new technology comes definitely new challenges, but it's exciting for, I think that sounds really cool. The writing the article sounds really cool. Again, you got to fact check it though, because I could ask to write an article on a specific topic, but if somebody wrote a bogus article and it's pulling partially from that, now you might have some bogus facts in there, some details that maybe shouldn't be in there or something like that. It's from a non-credible source. So I could see how it'd be really cool. I think there's definitely probably going to be kinks to work out, but that sounds exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, the more specific you can be with your requests, the better off you are as well.
Yeah.
And the kids of the world are already onto it. They're already using
Yeah.
it to write their homework, do their math homework, and English essays, all that kind of stuff. So it's it's a busy website. You have to kind of try a few different times to be able to log in actually, because otherwise it's overloaded with people already on it.
Oh wow. Wow. Well, I'd imagine, I mean, that talk about a space then if you want to just create another chat GPT for yourself or for other people. I mean, that sounds like it's an opportunity there.
Yeah.
So Matt, raising capital, of course, that was the main thing of the main idea. Um, what what was the overall feeling right now? We're in January 2023. What was the overall feeling of what's going on in the market? How were people excited? Were people nervous? Were people apprehensive? Were they not doing deals? Were they doing deals? What overall was the feeling in the conference?
Well, people are still doing deals. People are still finding good deals to do. And, when you're raising capital and then you can partner with other people that are finding the deals. So, I guess whether you're focused on finding deals, like you're limited on your own ability with broker connections and finding off market deals and stuff. But if you're raising capital and you're connected with a bunch of different sponsors, then you can cherry pick all the best deals to get connected with,
Yeah.
So, uh, I guess the whole idea of the market, while it's been a little bit slow these past couple of months, that's part of it's seasonal, part of it's just the potential apprehension.
Yep.
I guess the big speakers, the keynotes, were talking about the prognosis for the world, and other countries in the world are going to get a little hard this year, and especially next year with a potential recession, like in Europe. But America, we're expecting to be a little bit softer of a landing depending on what the feds do with the interest rates. So they could
Yeah.
definitely overshoot it with trying to get down to 2%. But so we'll just wait and see with that. But overall, very optimistic.
Again, we talked a lot about the economy, and that's not what this is going to be about. I mean, you could listen. Literally, we were just talking about that today. You can listen to 15 different people, and you come up with 15 different answers of what's going to happen, and they all sound very compelling. They all sound like you listen to that person, you're like, "Whoa, they're right. That's exactly what's going to happen." Then you listen to the next person, it's complete opposite, and you're like, "Whoa, they're right. That's what's going to happen." So we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do know there is probably a decent amount of probability that we are going to hit a recession again. I can't guarantee it. We could all of a sudden hit this massive expansion again, and everything is great, and it's feels like, man, we're just humming along like never before, right? So we don't know exactly, but yeah, just be prepared. So let's talk raising capital. What were maybe one, two, three, maybe it's 27 things that just kind of like the key things that maybe were like, whoa, I never thought of that before. Was there anything that was introduced, was talked about that you said, whoa, I just never thought about it like that, or I just didn't even know that was a thing?
I guess my own personal single takeaway, it may be different from everyone else who attended there, but my
Yeah.
own personal thing that I interpreted it and took is that I'm in this business to help people to achieve their goals, their dreams, their
Mm,
futures that they want,
yeah.
and and so I'm approaching my capital raising every day of thinking like, okay, who can I help to achieve their goals? Like, who can I help today? How can I help them? And it's like you say, raising money for deals, it's not selling people, it's sharing opportunities. So
Yep.
really taking that to heart with the attitude of like, who can I share an opportunity with today? Who can I help to make their future brighter?
Is there anything that you would have said before the conference, like maybe contradicted something that you would have previously thought?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I I guess one thing is more about global futures of I'm expecting the population of the world to keep on growing, but Bob Fraser, who was one of the keynotes that was talking about that,
Yeah.
he
Super smart guy.
yeah, super intelligent, and
Yeah.
so uh he was showing that like
Bruce Fraser, by the way.
oh, it was Bob
Oh,
Fraser
then
is
I'm thinking of somebody
oh okay.
different.
Well,
Then
maybe
he's
he's
not very smart.
oh okay.
Bob's a dummy. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know Bob then.
Yeah, it's all right. Bob and his son Ben were there, but
Okay.
anyway, um, so the population of China, for example, over the next 70 years is expected to halve
Yeah.
in numbers,
Yeah. Isn't
and
that something?
I didn't realize that before, and I guess I hadn't been paying close attention to that, but so you think about real estate in China
Yeah.
for the long term, like wow,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
China's scary, and
yeah,
by the way, has implications upon the world because of how we are set up now. Where I mean, we're a world economy. It's not just China by itself. They're not just this like little isolated country. Obviously, they do a ton of business all around the world. Now, that's exciting for other nations that are competing with China, maybe not getting as much business because the people, companies are going to China. So it's exciting probably for countries like India and a lot of the Asian countries, some South American, Central American, African countries. I think there's a lot of opportunity for some of these countries who have some resources and creativity to replace a lot of what China has built up over the years. So yeah, China's an interesting deal, but that's going to affect the world. I mean, the other thing too is you look at the U.S. The U.S. population is not growing like it used to. The average household is having less kids now, and so we are a trajectory where we will see basically a couple, the average couple or the average person will have one child, right? And so that means we're not replacing ourselves more than just pure replacing, right? We're not adding. So that's a population growth of zero. And so what that's going to require to grow the population is immigration.
yes,
That's the only way you're going to grow the population in the U.S. If we continue this trend, of course, that trend could change, but it doesn't feel like it's changing. And in China, it's even worse than that. They're not even having one child per person. They're having I can't remember what the statistic was. It was pretty low. It's like 0.6 or 0.7, something like that.
yeah. So essentially, they're going to have a population that ages out, so they're going to have more people retiring than they're going to have in the
Yeah.
workforce at a
And
certain
just wait
point.
till these baby boomers start to die, right? I mean, the baby boomer generation, quite frankly, is still pretty young, right? The average baby boomers are in their mid 70s. Most of those baby boomers are still alive today. Just wait until the average age of a baby boomer is 75, 80 years old. That's a lot of population loss that's going to happen in a short period of time between China and the U.S., Europe, a lot of different places, but that's a big amount of population loss. So that'll be really interesting. That's interesting point to bring up, and how that affects real estate. Definitely things to think about as you're looking at long term outlooks.
And another thing that I took away that I hadn't really, or maybe I disagreed with beforehand, is of like really focusing your efforts with social media. So you're better off doing just one social media channel, whether that's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever, one that you really like, and doing that well versus trying to do, posts on all of them all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's super valuable. I think you have to pick one source, and I agree with that. Pick one source, do it really, really well, and go ahead and become an expert at that. Grow your audience at that, and feel free to then add on to it once you grew your audience and one thing that I do a lot is just repost content on multiple channels. And I know that's maybe not the best thing to do, but if I'm focused on one channel and then I just repost onto the other ones, then those are kind of in the back seat. Then I don't feel like there's any harm in doing that. So for me, yeah, I agree with you. You got to focus on that. And the other thing is you got to be consistent. And that's something that I have to
Mm-hmm.
work on myself. I'm very inconsistent with it. I will post for, 3, 4 days in a row, and then I'll forget about it for 2 or 3 weeks just because I hate social media, quite frankly. But yeah, you've got to be consistent with it. That helps a ton.
Well, good news for you. There's people who you can pay to do your social media on your behalf. So makes it a
Yeah,
lot
I
easier.
know. I probably should hire one of those fine people to do some social media on my behalf. Maybe maybe eventually I'll have some AI program that'll be able to do it for me.
Yeah, yeah, honestly. You still want to like oversee it to make sure they're not feeding the audience full of BS that you don't agree
Right.
with.
Right. Or their own political agenda or whatever it is. And that actually happened to a friend of mine where, they had a VA that was doing a lot of their social media, and that VA was posting a lot of their, personal beliefs and political beliefs and things like that. And it wasn't really aligning with that person. So it was a little awkward, where you're looking at their website and you're like, or looking at their social media posts, you're like, what's going on here with you? I didn't know you got so political on your LinkedIn profile. It's really interesting. So
Yeah, you probably don't want
um
to get too political in your posts because you can drive away half the audience.
well, I mean that's and quite frankly, you can, right? I think that's important if that's really where you want to go. Right. So I think it's okay to drive away half your audience if that's the audience that you want to drive away. So but for me, like political, like that, first of all, I don't really give a rip. Like I shouldn't say I don't care. I mean, I have beliefs and I have cares, but that's not like my passion to like to talk like that and to act like that. But it is some people's. And so I think that's fine for people to really lean into what they believe. Um, and so like I look at a guy, Ellis Hammond was there, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Ellis talks about his faith, and his message is all about his faith, all about his Christianity is his message, and that's great. Now he drives people likely away. Okay, so people that don't believe, people that just are complete, non-believers, or maybe they're, he's Christian, so maybe they're Jews, maybe they're Muslims, whatever it is, they likely are driven away from him. Now, some probably actually are driven towards him because even though they don't believe the same thing, they have strong faith themselves and they're really attracted to that. So he probably does attract a few people, but at any rate, it's okay for him because he's driving away the people that he doesn't really is. That's not his target audience, but he's bringing in people that are his target audience, and they're creating a deeper connection with them because of what he's doing. They're trusting him deeper because of what he's doing, because he's talking about his faith, because he's talking about that faith journey, because he's talking about how what he's doing is enhancing the kingdom of God. People are now going, hey, I want to be part of what Ellis is doing. So I think that it can be valuable to really dive into what your beliefs are.
Oh, I agree. I mean, and Ellis was a great example there of a common theme throughout the conference that the riches are in the niches. The more niche you can get with your
Yeah.
audience, the better, because you're gonna be the dominating force within that niche.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, you got to pick something that you're really kind of passionate about, that you know a lot about, or can learn a lot about, and just make that your own thing. Look at politician like Marco Rubio. He gets made fun of because he says a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. But his whole thought there is, again, that's my niche. That's what I'm good at, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to attract those people that want to hear that message, and with that I'm going to win my political office back, or political seat back, every time.
Mm-hmm. And then another great theme of it was, is one thing that we've talked about here in the podcast is that real estate is a team sport. I mean, you can try to do it on your own, but you're not going to get very far, or nearly as far as you can by working with other people. So the networking at any conference is where the real value is at.
Yeah, for sure. And so did they have pretty good breakout sessions, or what did they have for networking? Was it solid like that?
No, it was all like in one room. I guess they like at lunches, they had some breakout rooms for the lunches. And then,
Yeah.
like there was a VIP, happy hour and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Did you get your VIP tickets?
yes, I got a VIP ticket
Nice.
and that was worth it. But then there was like other layers, if you were in the Raise Masters, program, which is their mastermind, or they have another level up from there. So, they had different levels beyond VIP, but that's okay. So, and then I
Yeah.
already got my ticket for next year, another VIP. It's just, you definitely want to be amongst the other serious people. And I think by getting a VIP ticket at conferences helps put you in the right room with the right people.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing. I mean, it certainly separates people when you look at who's in the VIP room versus who's not. Now, there certainly are some tire kickers in the VIP room, but not nearly as many. It's people that are, even if they don't have a lot of experience, they have a passion to be successful. And so that's their main goal, is to be successful. Maybe they're not there yet, but they're working really diligently at it. And so those are people you want to be around, even if they don't have the success yet, they have that mindset, they have that attitude. And that's the reason why they paid the extra to get the ticket.
Yep.
So, um, what else? What other lessons, Matt? If I'm going to go out there and raise capital tomorrow, what do I need to do?
You need to follow all the rules and regulations with it. No need to break the law. So you make sure you have an attorney as part of your team to keep you under control. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's huge, right? Did they have attorneys there speaking?
Uh, I think they didn't have like a session
Should have.
specifically on compliance. I mean, they talked around it, but yeah, that's my only criticism. They didn't go deep enough into compliance. But granted, like if there was a session only on compliance, there'd be like everybody would fall asleep maybe. But I'd be awake. I'd be
You
interested.
can
Like,
make
oh,
it interesting enough. If you've got a dynamic enough speaker talking about compliance, you can do a good job at that. So, all right, compliance, definitely make sure you're going through securities attorneys. What was there any just talk about, raising capital for other deals, and like the right way to do it versus the wrong way to do it?
yeah, I mean, so they talked about fund of funds, which
Yep.
is thing that I'm looking deeply into right now, is for future deals.
What's a
Where
fund of funds so my listeners understand it?
Okay, so this is essentially like, let's say, so I'm putting on a fund of funds. So I'm raising capital from people I know, or people maybe I don't know in some sort. But so we put our money together into this fund, and let's say instead of like each of us putting $50,000 directly into the deal, we assemble our money together into like $1 million fund. Now I can go to the syndication sponsor with a little buying power, negotiating power to say like, hey, if you want this big chunk of money, then you need to give us a little bit better return, a little bit better a little bit better, equity split after the preferred rate of return. And then like me as the fund manager, I can either, keep that myself as the arbitrage or the delta in between, or I can share that, with my investors depending. But even if I'm keeping it, I'm still adding a lot of value to my investors, because then they're not having to find the sponsors, because there's a lot of great sponsors out there, and there's a lot of not so great sponsors out there that will run deals into the ground. And then I, as the fund manager, I'm also vetting the deals as well. So I'm, doing all of the work on behalf of my investors for them. And then,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, there's still definitely compliance with that, but
Mhm.
one of the reasons why that works so well is because, again, when you're creating that fund, you're creating an LLC, you're creating a company, and that company is going to then invest in another company, right? And that's now your business vehicle, right? Is that investment. And like you said, Matt, as the GP of the fund, you can now create a structure to where you can actually get paid to bring those funds into the deal. Now, again, there's legalities. You want to make sure you're doing it right. You got to hook up with the securities attorneys and make sure you're following the rules. But that's a way for you to be able to get paid to raise capital, because otherwise, just quite frankly, getting paid to raise capital for the most part is illegal unless you get a broker dealer license.
Yeah. There's that exception with the fund of funds that you don't need the broker dealer license, but there are technicalities, like you say, you're
Yeah.
better off follow all the laws and regulations.
Yeah.
No need to break the law with that.
Well, the one downside with that, I would say, is it can be expensive. So if you're just doing the fund of funds model, you're only raising, let's call it a $500,000. It's pretty expensive to set that up because you're going to have to use a securities attorney, and so you're going to spend probably close to $10,000 by the time you're all said and done just to get that set up to raise the $500,000. So that's a big expense. But now if you're raising 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, then it starts to make a lot more sense the higher and higher you can get.
Yeah, and there's different ways to set up the funds. Like you
You
could
can,
either do one fund for one deal or one fund that can cover multiple deals.
yeah, you can do an open fund as well, where you can continue to raise that capital for it.
Yeah.
So,
and the best part is the investors of the fund still have equity ownership in the real estate investment. So they're still getting a K1 and their
right.
Tax benefits that come along with that as
Mm-hmm.
well.
That's cool. What's the number one way to raise $1 million? What was the resounding, hey, this is what you need to do?
Well, I mean, everybody starts with their friends and family, but when you get past that, you have to find that niche that you can really connect with. So that whether that you're going to a doctor conference and you're the only real estate person with booth at the doctor conference, and you're able to show the doctors like how you're able to support them, to be able to achieve their goals. Like you got to niche down and become the best resource within that niche, and then you'll have a great flow, in income with your passive real estate investing and your capital raising.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, there's a book actually called Networking with the Affluent. And
Excellent book.
That's a really cool book because it kind of makes you think a little bit outside the box and how you can get into some of these groups and network with them and add value to them. So it's all about adding value, right? If you're not adding value, you're just not going to be successful. One of the things too, I firmly believe as somebody who's going to raise capital, the successful capital raisers are people that are confident in themselves and are confident in what they're offering. So I think there's nothing more important than really building your confidence. I think understanding how, even though I say it to people, hey, raising capital is not selling, it's providing an opportunity. That is true, but it's also not true. It is still selling, right? It still follows the fundamental rules of selling. So I think anybody who's serious about capital raising needs to understand how to sell. And if you don't know how to sell and you don't know how to talk to people confidently, you don't know how to be sure about yourself without being arrogant or cocky, then you should be taking sales courses, in my opinion, if you're going to be a capital raiser. I think that would do anybody a lot of good, is to take sales and marketing courses, quite frankly, because you're marketing and you're selling, you're marketing and you're selling, you're marketing and you're selling. And that's what you're doing as a capital raiser. So if you want to be really good at it, that's my opinion. Take sales and marketing courses, learn how to be very confident in what you're doing. And you can learn how, in my opinion, your confidence will grow. In this, I gotta be careful saying this, but your confidence will grow with the knowledge and the experience. But that's not 100% true, because I do know people that are very, 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 very knowledgeable that still can't sell anything and still can't, raise capital. So you don't. I think so. I want to be careful when I say that. I don't want it to sound like, hey, you just got to be super, super knowledgeable and you're going to all of a sudden be able to sell. That's not necessarily true, but you do need to have enough knowledge to where you can speak eloquently to people, where when people ask you questions, you can answer those questions, or where to find the answers to those questions, right? So I think that's really important. That helps your confidence.
Yeah, I think that's key. And I also with selling, I think people are on to like the old like 1980s of like always be closing, hard, close kind of tactics, and so people don't, they pull back when you're trying to do that. But so if you're more of like showing them opportunities, adding value to them first, like you say, they're going to be more attracted to you and to be willing to do business with you once they know, like, and trust you.
Yeah, and that's so it's the importance too of continuing to grow your network, right? Continuing to grow your investor database is really important. And for me, a lot of people get caught up with numbers, Matt. I got to grow my database by 5,000 people. I don't want to grow my database by 5,000 people. I want to grow my database by 500 people because I want the 500 people that are actually going to invest in my deals. And then I want to continue to just, you know, provide them value, be around them, have them understand what we're doing and see it. And then when we have an offering for them to be interested in it and listen and even not even invest in it most of the time, just go, all right, this is interesting what these guys are doing. I want to follow along. I want to understand this. And maybe 3, 4, 5 deals down the road, they end up investing. But patience and not always be closing, I think is definitely good. You still want to close, but to an extent.
Yeah. And I think, you kind of put the nail on the head. You don't need more people in your network. You need the right people in your network. So, that's one thing they talked about as well, like how to get connected with accredited investors that are looking to invest, meeting the right people at the right time. So it's really targeted in your approach.
Yep. Yeah. Figure out who you're going to attract and who, quite frankly, you're excited to attract. So don't just go after doctors because doctors have money. If you have zero interest in talking with doctors and have nothing in common with them, why would you go after them? Maybe you have more in common with engineers. Well, then that's who you go after, right? That's who your target. That's what your niche becomes, or and it could be even maybe doctors, but maybe it's even a surgeon. So even niche down even farther. So, there's so many different groups out there that make a lot of money, and that you can go after that would be interested in investing in a syndication, right? There's so many different groups out there that make a lot of money, but you got to make sure you can talk with them. You got to make sure you can hang out with them, have a good conversation with them, and that they be interested in you, right? What do you have to offer?
Exactly. Like if you have a sort of natural historical connection with that group. Like I met a girl at the conference who she has a good connection with photographers because she's like a contract connector, to get photographers to get business. So she knows how much they make. She is already involved in that business, and so that's kind of her niche of raising capital from them.
Yep. Love it. Well, cool, Matt. Anything else that was, that you got at the conference that you really took that you could pass to our listeners, or do we cover everything?
Persistence. Just keep on driving. If at first you're not succeeding, well, keep going. It's like when you're starting a new podcast, you're probably not going to beat Joe Rogan's numbers on your first week. So it takes time to build over time, but keep going.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's everybody goes at their own pace, and you see other people posting and you see like, holy crap, what are they doing? That's unbelievable. How can I do that? And sometimes you get really nervous about it, but it doesn't mean that they're converting either. It doesn't mean that they're being successful. I know several people that are posting how many, followers that they have and how many people are watching their YouTube videos or listening to their podcast or so on. And they can't raise much capital because they're not converting on those people. Just because they have big numbers doesn't mean anything. So focus on what you're doing and use other people maybe for motivation, but don't use them to distract you. Make sure that you don't let them distract you. Make sure you don't let them, get you down because they're doing so much better than you, because you really don't know. And most of it's fake anyways.
Oh, exactly. You're not in competition with anybody either. Like, right. There's always going to be people ahead of you, always people behind you. All you do is do your very best with what you got.
Yep, you got it. All right, man. Well, awesome. thanks for going to the conference and then giving us all that information for free. Thanks for paying for those tickets so we could learn from you. Appreciate that. Well, Matt, again, appreciate it. You have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day Saturday.
Thanks, you too.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. But your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So the other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.